Hello, I'm Joe Avenoso, a graduate student in the Gundlach group. Thank you for your interest in our group and in our work. There's a lot of interesting science to be conducted towards new sources of energy and technology beyond conventional electronics. These research areas are naturally interdisciplinary, and their properties and interactions on the femto and picosecond scales are of utmost importance. With these applications in mind, I will dive a bit further into the systems we study and the experimental techniques we use to study them. One of the most used experimental techniques in our lab is transient absorption spectroscopy, which enables us to measure excited state dynamics of a sample. One of the main applications of our research is solar energy conversion. We sensitize thin semiconductor films with dye molecules as shown in the first figure. We can then study how electrons can be transferred from the parylene-based dye to the titanium dioxide film. Upon photoexcitation, an electron is quickly excited to a higher energy state and then is transferred to the titanium dioxide film in about 10 femtoseconds. This fast 10 femtosecond time constant is extracted from the map shown beside it by comparing the change in absorption amplitudes between points A and B. Point A is the excited state of the electron in the parylene-based dye, and point B is the cation state that is indicative of the electron having been transferred from the dye to the film. So the decrease at A and the subsequent increase at B shows that the electron has moved from the dye to the semiconductor. So this is similar to energy transfer in a solar cell. By changing the types of dye molecules and how they bind to the semiconductor film, we can measure different time constants and thus the change in efficiency of this electron transfer. Similarly, we can measure hole injection from metal nanoparticles to a semiconductor. These nanoparticle arrays, which are shown below this solar cell example in the first section of this poster, we have gold nanoparticles distributed in an array, and we can have a cuprous oxide semiconductor outer shell on these gold nanoparticle cores. We then have excited state maps to the right that show different dynamics depending on if the cuprous oxide is present or not. This change in dynamics is related to hot carrier transfer from the metal to the semiconductor. This transfer is assisted by the presence of a plasmon. Now, this plasmon can be studied in greater detail if we use a different form of spectroscopy, which our group is just starting to implement. So this is an upcoming project where we can use terahertz spectroscopy or time domain terahertz emission spectroscopy in particular to study how this plasmon can help generate terahertz radiation. So in figure C, we have a time domain signal, which is a terahertz signal. And then in figure D, we have a fast Fourier transform of the same signal. So if we learn more about this plasmon and its effects in this system, this could be possibly helpful towards different applications in optoelectronics. Another experimental setup that we conduct is called pump-to-generate four-wave mixing. This enables us to measure how vibrations change in the electronic excited state. In other words, we can learn how electrons interact with phonons, which is very important for future applications in upcoming technologies such as valleytronics. Transition metal dichalcogenides are being studied for a wide range of applications, but few labs conduct pump-to-generate four-wave mixing measurements, which gives us an interesting perspective into these otherwise widely studied systems. The semiconductor that we use for the solar cell example at the top of this poster is titanium dioxide, and it has a self-cleaning mechanism when excited with ultraviolet light. Learning to control this mechanism could be useful for upcoming technologies where degrading waste or cleaning services is required. Our experiments require a wide range of laser frequencies on very short timescales. We can achieve this all on one table with our titanium sapphire amplifier. Even though our laser system provides pulses centered around 800 nanometers, we can conduct experiments within a wide spectral range using nonlinear optical techniques. The image in the bottom left shows a wide view of our table where multiple experiments are in view, and the amplifier itself is a large black box in the back left of the image. The picture on the bottom right of our poster is our two-stage non-collinear optical parametric amplifier, or NOPA for short, which is an amplifier that receives the 800 nanometer light from the laser, but can take this frequency or this wavelength and use it to output across the visible and near IR spectrum. So we can have amplified visible and near infrared light at a wavelength of our choosing, which is why we can study a wide range of systems as I have presented here. Thank you for your attention. Please feel free to contact Lars Gundlach or any of his students in his group if you have any questions.